everyone, I have a card process video for you. Surprise, surprise, I'm back! So I posted this card on my blog a couple days ago, and I had this rainbow ink blended panel on the card, and it was such a fun technique. I thought maybe I would do a video for you using some different colors, but show you exactly how I got that panel on there. So to start off with, I'm taking a piece of whipped cream cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I am going to place that down on my grid mat. Now I'm using the grid mat so that I can actually see where I'm at and make sure I have straight lines with everything. And I'm going to take this painter's tape and I'm going to place it on my inner arm. I want this painter's tape to stick to the cardstock and work as a mask, but I don't want it to stick so well that it's actually going to tear my cardstock when I go to pull it up. So that's why I'm sticking it on my inner arm. I'm taking just some scrap type paper here that I have cut into pieces, and I'm going to line that up on my grid mat. And I'm actually lining it up about 1/4 inch further back than where I'm taping on there. But I'm using that grid mat to actually line up my tape again so that I have completely straight lines. I want this to line up perfectly. The gap that is going to be there between the two pieces of painter's tape is about 1 3/4 inches wide. And just lining it up there on the bottom and then again on the top on that same line before I push it down. And then I'm making sure that all the edges are fully adhered down so that I have a nice crisp edge. I'm going to start off with some bubblegum ink. This is our True Color Fusion ink, and I'm using the small dauber dowel to actually blend this ink out. I'm actually not picking up a ton of ink on each pass. I'm tapping that ink pad pretty lightly, but I just want to get enough color that I can start seeing the color on the cardstock, and then I will just continue to blend and add color as needed. Now, because this is a fusion ink, that means that it is a blend between a pigment ink and a dye ink. So you actually get, because of that pigment ink being in there, it's not a really crisp, sharp color to start out with. You get a little bit of mottling in the color as you're blending with it, but it does smooth out as time goes by, as that ink has a chance to kind of spread out and work its way into the fibers of the paper. So you can see that it's just a little bit mottled, but as I keep working and keep adding more ink, it does smooth out in the end. So I'm going into my second color of ink now, and this second color is going to be the Pretty Amethyst. I'm going for a pink to purple to a dark deep blue on this, so it kind of has a little bit of maybe like a galaxy type feel in the end. And I'm going to add this ink across the center, of the paper, blending it up into the pink. So I'm going to wind up picking up that pink dowel again and start working the pink into the purple and the purple into the pink until I get a nice blend between the two colors. You can do this with any of the colors of ink. The rainbow card showed where I had done it with multiple colors of ink, just blending one into the other into the next. And in the month of August, all of our True Color Fusion inks are actually on sale at FSJ. So they are 20% off during August only. So I will have a link in the description below that'll send you over to my online shop, and you can actually pick out the colors of ink that you like. I really encourage you to try these inks. The #1 ink that I would tell you to get is the Black Licorice ink. That is so, so awesome. So right here I'm actually working in the Huckleberry Fusion ink. And you can see that I'm building it up as the color goes on. This is actually going to turn out to be quite a dark blue in the end, but as I'm just adding small amounts of color as I dip into it and work my way up. You'll see that as I blended, I did this at just a slight angle. That just adds some extra interest as the ink blends down. So I'm going to go back into that purple and blend the purple into the blue and the blue into the purple. I'm also making sure that I've got the ink all the way up to those edges on the tape so I have nice crisp lines when I pull that tape off. Now I'm all finished up with the ink blending. On the original card, I actually had done a silk splatter across the entire card front. On this card, I'm going to do it while my mask is still in place, so that the sparkle silk is only going to be splattered across the portion of the card that is inked. You'll see as I splatter this, sparkle silk is so fun to play with. It looks really bright, silvery, shiny in the video right now. However, once it really completely dries down, it's a little bit more subtle than it is. So I'm very carefully peeling that painter's tape, and you can see that I'm doing it at a fairly sharp angle, which helps to keep it from ripping the cardstock beneath it. So now I'm going to take some of that fabulous black licorice ink and a stamp set called Sweet You. There's a sentiment in there called Miss You that I'm going to be using on this. I'm going to stamp that sentiment onto my card front with that black ink. And then I'm just going to do a quick little check to make sure that I didn't smudge any ink anywhere in the process of doing that. I'm going to take another scrap of whipped cream cardstock, and I'm going to use a punch on it. So this is our punch system. You actually purchase the handle separate from the punch cartridges. It just makes things a little easier for storage. There is a flower that is printed on the punch handle and a flower that is printed on your punch cartridge. So you line those up together, and then you can get your punch cartridge actually put into your handle. I punched this out 3 times, but I'm actually only going to use hearts that came from 2 of those punches. I'm not at all worried about those extra hearts. I'm totally going to use them for something else. So I'm just lining up on my card, deciding where I want those hearts to go. Get rid of those extra hearts and just set them aside for something else. And now I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending on these hearts. I want them to blend in with that panel that is on there. So what I'm going to do is put some bubble gum on this first heart, and then I'm going to come back in with that pretty amethyst, and I'm going to add just a little bit of that purple color to the edge of this heart. Then I'm going to go back with the pink dowel, and I'm just going to blend that out to make sure that it is a smooth blend. I'm going to do the same thing on this second heart. I'm going to start with the pretty amethyst ink and get some purple onto that heart, and then I'm going to go back in with the huckleberry and get a little bit of that dark blue. You'll notice I am a little clumsy here. I would highly recommend that you actually move your card front as you're working on this so it's not in the way of the dowels that are flying everywhere. Did all that work masking everything out, and then I have dowels that are just moving everywhere. On this final heart, I want it to be entirely blue, so I'm going to add the blue color onto the heart, but then I'm going to add a little bit more color down towards the bottom edge just to give that a little bit of a deeper color. And then I'm going to attach these hearts to my card front using some small foam squares. In the final card, you're going to notice that after I had finished everything with the card, I did go back in and added some Journey glaze over the top of these hearts. I wanted them to have a nice shiny appearance, which helps them to stand out from the inked background just a little bit more. And it doesn't seem to matter what adhesive I'm using or what kind of foam squares or anything. If that release paper is on something, it sticks to my fingers like nobody's business. I have a hard time getting that off of my hands. So those are attached there, and at this point I'm looking at this card and thinking I need to trim this down just a little bit. So I'm going to bring my trimmer in, and I'm actually going to trim 1/4 inch off of that right hand side, and then I'm going to turn the card. Both top and bottom I'm going to trim 1/8 of an inch on. So the final card panel is going to wind up being 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. Then I'm going to bring in my card base that I'm going to attach this to. I'm attaching this to a Pretty Amethyst card base. This is a sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock that is cut at 4 1/4 inches along the short end. And then it is scored at 5.5 inches. So this is a standard A2 card base. It's just lining it up just to make sure that everything looks straight and even. Then I'm going to bring in my Journey craft glue, and I'm going to use that to attach my card front. So I'm using a very small amount. It looks like a lot, but it's actually very thin amount that I'm using on there. I really like this glue. It attaches very well. It glues down pretty securely with everything, and it dries fairly quickly. So, but it does give you that little bit of time to kind of wiggle things around a little bit and make sure that you've got everything lined up evenly. So I'm using my crease tool just to burnish that glue into the fibers of the cardstock. This will help to make sure that it is a permanent seal. And at this point I'm looking at this card thinking it just needs something more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my pearls, and I'm going to start adding some pearls to the card front. I like to add gems or pearls or something like that. They just add a little bit of interest and a little bit of dimension to the cards. And I like to add them in groupings of 3, but I want to make sure that the amount that is on my card looks right. So sometimes that's going to be 3, sometimes that's going to just be 2. So that top section of pearls is actually just 2 pearls. And that is the card front. These were super fun to make, super easy and easily customizable. So thanks for watching. Much love to you all, and I hope you found this helpful. Bye.